and welcome to another episode of the Let's Talk Marvel Fan Theories podcast. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Katie, and we're two sisters and borderline obsessed Marvel fans who have been following the Marvel Cinematic Universe closely for years. And now we want to share our MCU discussions with you.
We chat about our own predictions and theories, plus some of our favorites from online, and our reactions to all of the Marvel content that's considered MCU canon, including the Disney Plus shows and the movies, as well as the Marvel news you need to know. Okay, guys, so I think one of the biggest questions coming out of finishing Phase 3 in the Infinity Saga and knowing where kind of our big three ended up and the three who have kind of led the Avengers, being Thor, Iron Man, and Cap, you know, where are we going next and who's going to lead the Avengers?
And I think this was a big question that not only I think we had from the get-go of probably Phase 4 and, you know, just the results of Endgame to begin with, but also they literally asked this question in Eternals. Like, this gets brought up directly. And Marvel doesn't do that on accident, ever. So it definitely was to get us to start thinking, and I think I'm just gonna, because we're really quick on this topic, just gonna say, I think we all could have said Icarus until we watched the end of Eternals.
I'm really sad, because I really wanted Richard Madden to be like, Mr. Avenger.
Yeah, but clearly we're not getting that, and we aren't even sure to see him return ever, so we can write him off right away, but I did want to bring up that we obviously heard this question in the actual, like, MC universe.
So it's a canonical question.
Yeah, of whether, like, who's going to be leading the Avengers, and so far I think we've seen, a lot of small stories here and there. Not that they're not big in their own way, but we have not yet really seen major crossovers. I think the biggest crossover has been No Way Home.
Yeah.
Just having two of our already established characters in one movie.
Well, not to mention, you know, obviously the first Avengers in 2012, it established an infrastructure for the Avengers. They became a team. You saw them then working together, continuing as a team in Age of Ultron. They were working out of Avengers Tower. Then later they moved to the Avengers compound, which was obviously destroyed in the battle with Thanos. But there was an infrastructure for that happened in 2023. So for the 11, I can math, for the 11 years that they were working together, they were a cohesive unit, they had a structure, and they had an infrastructure.
Yeah.
None of that exists anymore, physically or socially. Like, they don't interact. The teams the heroes don't interact. There's no buildings anymore. There's no team, not in the way that we were used to. So we haven't even, obviously Hawkeye, in the show Hawkeye, talks about the Avengers compound and the wreckage or the remnants of it, but we don't even get hints of a real Avengers team operating. And we haven't had that hint since basically Endgame.
No, I think the biggest reference to it since has been in No Way Home when Peter said he was part of the Avengers.
Yeah.
And I also pretty sure, if I remember the line correctly, he doesn't say, I am a part of the Avengers. I'm pretty sure he said, I was a part of the Avengers.
Yeah.
So that's also to show they're clearly, right now, completely dismantled, which I think is weird, because Endgame from the get-go, like, you bring all these heroes together and they all just were like, oh, gotta go home, see ya. Like, I thought that was weird.
And then you're turning over the roster, too, which is, like, it's just a weird transitional time, and I'm excited for it to kind of, I'm happy with what's happening in the MCU now, don't get me wrong, but I'm also looking forward to the point where we're kind
seeing a structure again.
Yeah, because it started to happen really in, like, I would say, like, late Phase 1, early Phase 2, and I'm excited for it to, like,
but even then, we had at least the Infinity Stone. So even when we didn't have necessarily maybe the Avengers structure, we had the stones starting to link things together.
Connective tissue.
Yeah,
for sure.
and I think right now we've been getting weird hints, but because of the multiverse, that's been a really weird time for everyone. And so you have the multiverse trying to be done, and then we had that weird thing that happened at the end of Shang-Chi, and then it was like, with, like, the rings. So there's just a lot. Yeah. And the Eternals is, like, way out into the other dimension, but not really. They're completely on Earth, but they're not, but they are, and then Celestials. So it's just a weird time, because we're talking and discussing a lot of different groups.
Yeah, and a lot of, like, major plot lines that don't necessarily intersect. Like, I don't see the multiverse intersecting with Celestials visiting Earth. They're not necessarily related, nor is there any causality between one and the other.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, we're going in two very separate directions, so how are you going to bring people together?
I agree. So, opening the floor now, we're going to start with who we think. I have about 3 or 4 people that I would guesstimate. And I also want to preface, I think a year ago, I think we both probably would have been saying Black Panther as one of ours. Obviously, with the passing of Chad and the just chaos. The complete chaos of Black Panther as a franchise. I think I can safely say I wouldn't expect another Black Panther to be leading right now.
Yeah. And I think, too, I almost think that it would be hard for them to make Black Panther a leader of the Avengers ever, because that was a role that was essentially meant for Chad.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Black Panther character precedes him. But once he took that mantle, I mean, nobody really ever sees anybody else, obviously being T'Challa. But I personally, and I think, there are people out there who would agree with me, I struggle to see anyone creating the meaning out of that character in any form the way that Chadwick did. And so I just wonder if it would be difficult to elevate that character to a leader of the Avengers with it being anyone but Chadwick.
Well, my mind goes 2 different ways off of the 2 different things we've been hearing. One, that they might recast Chadwick, and here's my thought, and I don't want to get into that debate, but first off, if they did do that and they remade a movie, they have to get the fans to love this person the way that Chadwick was, and if the fans don't necessarily receive them that way, I just think that's not easy to try to make them a leader of the Avengers. On the other side of it, which I think was kind of your point, is if you don't recast him and you make Shuri, for example, Black Panther, or you make Nakoye, or not, wait, I just...
Nakia
or Okoye. But I was like, wait a second, I just combined too many names there. If you, especially Nakia, the Black Panther, once again, I think that, like I said, this was your point a little bit as well, you established him as the possible next leader. Even making her the next Black Panther doesn't establish her as the leader of the Avengers.
Yeah.
So
I just think there's so much of that role now is tied into Chadwick, so they're going to have trouble, I think, getting the fans on board with anyone even taking over the mantle of Black Panther. I think is going to be hard. Chadwick was so perfect. And I think it's just going to be hard for other people to see anyone take on that mantle. Just knowing in the back of your mind the circumstances around why he no longer has that role.
Right.
It's just I think very upsetting.
Right. So I wanted to add that because I think, like I said, that probably would have been one of the biggest contenders as of like a year ago, or a year and a half even, I guess, would be more accurate at this point. So just wanted to put that out there just so that it's said. I don't see us seeing a Black Panther as a leader of the Avengers. But moving right into the second one, which I think is probably one of the higher contenders, I think we also agree on this one, even though it's been unsaid, because we didn't want to share it with each other prior to the podcast.
The other person's ideas.
But obviously Sam as Captain America is a huge one. I mean, we've obviously already seen the Captain America leader kind of aspect in general, so that would be the only thing I might reconsider his with, is because it's kind of been done already, and I could see them maybe wanting a different person as far as who they had you said Sam as Falcon, I would have been like, yeah, but now that he's Captain America, part of me is like, I feel like they might not want to do that because Caps already did it. But on the other side, maybe they'd want to do it because he's Captain America. So it's
I actually lean the opposite way. I'm thinking it makes sense for, if it's like the next man up mentality. Like, if you have Captain America, leader of the Avengers, well, just because it's not, oh my god, I was about to call him Chris, just because it was not Steve, who's the next Captain America, like, it's not like that role is unfulfilled now. Whereas, like, Iron Man, as of right now, we have no replacement for Iron Man, but we have a natural replacement for Steve. So, to me, or for Captain America, or Steve as Captain America, so it's like, it's a natural fit for Sam to just go in and take that role.
Right, and I like to play a little bit of devil's advocate, and I like to think of almost why they wouldn't. Because to me, he's such an obvious choice that I really think the only argument against it would be, we've seen the Captain America be the leader before. Even, like, Civil War was essentially an Avengers movie. We see so much of that being brought in and everything, so that's the only reason I would maybe go against Sam being it, is because he is now the mantle of Captain America. But
one thing I do want to point out when I was thinking about this, to the pro for Sam, too, is I think one reason that Steve was the natural leader of the Avengers, or one of the leaders, was the military background. Yeah. And I think that can't be overlooked. So Sam obviously has that as well. The Avengers are in some ways, you know, a super special strike team, military type strike team. So you need someone with that tactical and military background to provide that perspective and that experience. And I think that too kind of goes in Sam's favor for a natural fit.
I agree. And now I also want to add in, we have obviously the big three. So there's not really a direct leader. We have the big three, and then we have Tony and Kat, which are like a little above Thor just because Thor's out there like...
Not always on Earth.
Yeah, he's off planet a lot, but obviously the big three is the thing. So when we're mentioning the leaders, it's not just a singular leader, of course. I mean, there's at least two, possibly a third, who could be off planet a lot. And I think, if I'm going to say that already, one of mine would probably honestly be Carol.
Yeah, me too.
And I don't know how I feel because I don't necessarily love her character. Yeah. Just because I don't think she was written very well in her own personal movie. I also think it came out at a bad time. I like her more after watching it again.
Me too.
But I'm not like Captain Marvel's biggest, like, yes. I also kind of feel, and this is the tiniest, like, devil's advocate moment, but would they do Captain Marvel and a Captain America? I don't know. You know, like... But she would kind of fit the stereotype of Thor being off-world a lot, being
but
there
with
when...
the military background.
Yes.
Yeah.
And being there when needed. So...
Another vote, I think, in her favor, the few hints we have gotten of inter-Avenger cooperation being the end credit scene in Shang-Chi.
I was gonna say, we know she's still around, too.
We know she's around, we know she's talking to other Avengers, and we know, like... So there's that kind of welcoming committee for Shang-Chi, when it's Bruce and Carol, and I'm like, all right, like that's kind of a hint that she's at least still in contact with the other Avengers. So to me, that's kind of a vote in her favor as well.
Well, and I know this might seem like you're pulling real short straws here from my point of view, but I even think of that very distinct scene in, I want to say Endgame. Yes, the Endgame, very beginning of Endgame, when they're about to go up to Thanos and kill him, and they're in the compound, Thor walks up to her, and he brings it so his hammer comes, and it's that big moment.
Stormbreaker, it's Stormbreaker.
Oh, it is Stormbreaker. Well, then Mew Mew comes back, and then...
it's like a whole thing.
And I refuse to watch Endgame more than twice, so it's like... But I feel like that's a very distinctive, almost passing of the torch moment of Thor testing her.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be against seeing her come in. Like I said, one of the smallest things for me would be, are they going to do Captain America and Captain Marvel? Are they really going to do that? I don't know. But I also, because when I was thinking about all of this, Wanda briefly had crossed my mind, you know, being the most powerful Avenger down on Earth especially. But then I was like, I'm not sure because she toes lines. But Carol is powerful and doesn't toe lines, so that's why I kind of settled on Carol. I just thought she probably had the best interest in mind for the Avengers.
I also think, too, I know Fury's been in and out, but Fury kind of established who the leaders were of the Avengers in a way by just how he acted in the first Avengers movie. So he kind of looked to Cap and Tony, and a little bit Thor, but really Cap and Tony to kind of lead. And that kind of, I think, set the tone for who was going to lead going forward, right? Who has Fury's stamp of approval, his original stamp of approval? It's Carol. I mean, to him, the Avengers are named.
Yeah, I was like, she essentially is the Avengers from the get-go.
She's the original Avenger.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it makes natural sense.
No offense, Captain America, the first Avenger.
Name-wise, it's Carol. Timeline-wise, it's for sure Steve. We're never going to take that away from Steve. I just love him so much. But, yeah, so I think that also works in Carol's favor.
Well, and for me, like I said, I think she also just embodies the idea of Thor, and because you have Cap and Tony mainly being the on-Earth leaders, I think she would be very well for that off-world kind of thought. But then to fill that final spot for me, for right now, because I got some other ideas, but these are like maybe my top 3 picks, that would be those big 3, would be then Strange, take Tony's spot in a heartbeat, for me.
Yeah, I would have said Strange before MOM, but I refuse to give him any definitive predictions until I see that movie. Because that
That's
movie
fair.
is gonna blow the roof off everything.
And honestly...
And he's not even the Sorcerer Supreme right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, I'm like...
Honestly, though, I would
know.
have said Peter up until No Way Home.
Yeah, no, fair. Because same.
So for me, I'm thinking, who embodies that same idea? I mean, he's already, and we even talked about this yesterday, unrelated to this, how him and Tony are so similar. And the power he has, and he's not gonna not stay Sorcerer, or not be Sorcerer Supreme for long. I do expect MOM to, and I love Wong, but I do expect MOM to fix that part of that in possibly not a great way for us, it being in love with a character such as Wong, but I see that being an aspect. I mean, he's been in everything now.
Yeah, he's really the connector.
Yeah, and everything, even including small things like the Sanctorum, Jesus, sometimes I cannot say that, is everywhere. Shang-Chi, I mean, he was in Spider-Man, like, they're bringing in a lot, I mean, now with MOM is tying in Wanda, and so that essentially indirectly ties in WandaVision.
Yeah.
Like, he is in everything. I mean, he's even name-dropped in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier because of the wizards and all that stuff. So I'm like, I just see him being that big person to come up and lead. I mean, him and Tony very clearly go head to head, and to me, that's another moment of almost like that torch pass of like, okay, you know what's happening. I need to sacrifice myself. You got this, man.
Yeah.
Like, you protect people. And I mean, he even took up I have to protect Peter. I have to, like, he even
took up the Peter Dad role too.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
There's that.
Exactly. So, I mean, to me, I don't see them having the Avengers without having Strange essentially as a leader, and I don't see him being happy not being a leader.
That's fair. I honestly think, Strange could be in there, but I refuse to put that out in the world until I've seen MOM, because I have no clue what's going to happen.
That's
that
fair.
Movie is going to turn everything upside down. I actually was going to say Thor, and then I had it stop before you say anything. I was thinking about it as you were talking about Doctor Strange, kind of tuning you out for like a hot second, and then I was like, it doesn't have to be Thor, it could be Jane Foster Thor, and hear me out, because you were talking about off-world, on-world. Alright, so if there's two Thors, because now there can be Thor with Stormbreaker, and he or they who have the power of Thor, whoever shall hold his hammer has the power of Thor. Jane Foster. So she could be out here on Earth, being Earth Thor, and Thor, Odinson. This is gonna be hard.
Chris.
Can be out here in the space doing the whole 9 realms thing, and we can have two Thors and still have Thor as a leader of the Avengers.
Okay, I'm really glad you said this, because this was actually the one that I was going to say when we were talking right before the podcast started. I said, I have one that's a little out of left field, and it was Thor. And the reason I didn't bring it up yet, I was going to I wanted to bring it up when we were talking about Captain Marvel, when I kept making the comparisons, but I was like, no, I have to do my initial top 3 that I think it could be to fill in those top 3 spots. And then my next, number 4 was Thor. And my only devil's advocate with him is because we've seen it, but then to your point, we have Natalie's Thor, who could also play that down on Earth. So that's an aspect that I was thinking about as well. But I was definitely thinking about it because I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if they wanted to some degree keep it at least have one consistent person left, because Hawkeye, to me, is done with the Avengers themselves. I know this has been talked about, I'm not sure in the last Hawkeye podcast, but definitely on the blog post about where he is to go from here. And I think he's going to be a leader, just not of the Avengers themselves. And I don't think he's going to be involved with the Avengers anymore. A different group of Avengers, yes.
I also, since we're on the topic of Hawkeye, I want to see what happens with his wife, because that wasn't an accident that they...
Yeah, and that was also just a weird...
Yeah, so it was definitely not an accident that they kind of hinted at her backstory, so I think there's more to come from the Hawkeye family.
Yeah.
It will be interesting to see, but I don't necessarily think that ties in with the Avengers, because to your point, I think his time with the Avengers is done.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think, and I also don't think Bruce, and the reason we're talking about the old Avengers right now is because obviously we're talking about Thor as a contender. I also don't see Bruce coming in to lead the Avengers, So I think he has a different...
I do see him as a support, though, because he was still with Carol in Shang-Chi.
Oh, yeah.
So,
but I don't see him being the leader.
No, I don't either.
I also
That's not
don't
versus
think...
temperament.
Yeah, I don't think, quite literally, but I don't think he would want to.
Exactly. He's more of a behind-the-scenes, let me rage out when needed kind of guy. And now he's kind of, like, he and the Hulk kind of have an understanding.
Yeah.
But I still don't... I think the Hulk would want to lead. I don't think Banner wants to lead.
Yeah. And my other endorsement for Thor is, like I said, the consistency of having someone who's there, but he also wasn't there for Civil War.
True.
And I think that makes him already a better leader in the sense of he did not have to pick a side.
Nor did he fight his fellow Avengers.
Exactly. Well, that's what I mean. He didn't have to pick a side, and he didn't need to go to, quite literally, I guess, to war against his other Avengers. So he was like, after I put my Carol Cap, new Cap, like Sam Cap, and Doctor Strange as my top picks for each of the big three, he was like right below to keep his spot and to possibly bring in Natalie's as well.
Yeah. I actually think I wouldn't be surprised if it was Natalie's, because I think they're gonna... I mean, Chris is not going to be able to do this forever. He's the only one who's
he's the only one who won't shut up about not wanting to leave.
I know. I know.
Like, even Tom Holland's out here, well, I want to eventually not keep acting. And Chris is like, as long as I'm here, I'm playing Thor.
As long as
like,
I can move,
Thor.
I will be Thor.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I just wonder, are they going to let someone do, 15 movies, So, I wouldn't be surprised if they're finding ways to maybe keep the character of Thor. Obviously, they're doing that with Natalie.
Yeah.
But not necessarily make it Chris, because he might not be able to do this forever. Especially because, the man doesn't look any different now than he did in 2011 when that movie came out?
Yeah, they just stopped bleaching his eyebrows.
Oh my god,
much.
So horrible. But anyway.
Yeah, it was really bad.
It was really bad. He, didn't even look like he had any... I'm sorry.
No, it was so bad.
So awful. Anyway, getting back to the point... He will eventually start to look like he's aging. Thor's not supposed to age at the rate of a human, so you would have to do massive time jumps in order for Thor to look ever like Odin did. So there are just some things that Chris can't control, such as the passage of time. So I don't necessarily know that they're going to set him up to be the leader of the Avengers for the next 10 years when they have another Thor who could take that. And, I feel like it's been said, the future of Marvel is very space, but also very female. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to really work to find ways to fit in female characters in more of the leadership roles. Yeah. Whereas before it was obviously, the past Avengers were 5/6 male and all the leaders were male. So.
Well, and so for me, Thor, definitely Natalie's Thor is a contender. And then after that, I actually want to put Shang-Chi.
Me too!
Okay, I didn't think we were going to agree as much as we're agreeing. It's kind of annoying to me.
That is kind of aggravating.
Because I like when we can dispute each other. But I see him being what they wanted Black Panther to be. And how Black Panther came in, he was this big, moment. And then, and I'm not saying he's not, but you know what I'm saying. And then, we see him throughout, 4 or 5 films, and he's supposed to come up and be that leader. I see that now being Shang-Chi.
I think that end credit scene I keep referring to was the gateway into that. So many of these Avengers, think of Ant-Man, right? For example, when he had his first movie, he had nothing to do with the bigger Avengers.
Yeah.
He wasn't welcomed, and the apparatus, the infrastructure did exist at the time.
Yeah.
He was not welcomed in yes, he, fought Sam on Avengers campus, around the compound, but, he was not then welcome as an Avenger until Civil War, and it was basically because they were just, taking guys off the bench, But Shang-Chi got that full, he was obviously talking to Wong.
Yeah.
He got the full welcome from Carol and Bruce, he was he's almost like the golden child in a way, ushered in as the next big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I definitely could see him doing it. And I think it culturally lines up with the idea of Black Panther as well. I think it's obviously a different culture, but the big movement behind it was huge. So I think just bringing in that type of representation that saw with Black Panther and would have seen him with him as a leader. Obviously Sam, but
yes, yeah.
I think that would be a very interesting, because I love the big three, but they are all white men. So I think Phase 4 has been so big on showing us diversity in all types of the word.
Yeah.
And I think that would be a big contender is to bring him in as well as a leader. That would make a lot of sense. And like I said, that could fulfill the whole that Black Panther as the next leader that he was supposed to be. I think that could definitely help fill that hole a little bit.
Yeah. And then, even just power-wise, like if you think about the big three, like they were the most powerful Avengers.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry.
At the time.
Yes.
Because Wanda came in, but she didn't unleash her full power for a while.
Yeah. I mean, I'm talking like the original 6, OG 6, because that's where the ranking really was established.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you can say the Hulk is powerful, but he's not the Hulk all the time, and Bruce and
he's also, in the nicest of ways, especially the first few films, the Hulk is quite literally just smash.
Yeah, he's not in control.
Yeah, he's just, yeah.
So, I would say the big three were the most powerful Avengers, and in terms of power level, like, Shang-Chi's, like, really up there.
Yeah.
Like, he could probably go toe-to-toe with Wanda, and, hold his own for a while. He could not beat her, I don't think.
No.
But I think he would put up a better fight than some of these other people, for sure. And he would probably, like, he and Carol, I think, are the best match for her, power-wise. So, for him to stand up with those two women, that's a pretty big deal, and that's a lot of power.
Yeah. I'm gonna bring up my last one.
Okay.
Because I had, like, A team, B team kind of idea. And this one's really, I know you did not think about this one at all.
I don't have any more, so I'm just shook.
Okay, well, but you also, I know, just didn't think about this one, and this is gonna be probably my out of the leftist of left field.
Okay.
But I wonder about White Vision.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, he did cross my mind for a second, I immediately crossed him off.
My thoughts are, in the comics, I kind of like going across some of the comic lines with White Vision, and really the biggest difference with White Vision is just that he's not emotional, really. He, can't feel the emotions. To a degree, that could make someone a very good leader, because why was Vision unsuccessful? Because of emotions? In all honesty, because he fell in love with Wanda, and that would be why
Rhodey's paralyzed.
It's why he's paralyzed. It's why he was injured in the beginning of Infinity War. It's why he ended up dying in Infinity War, because had he been at full power, I mean, we saw it in What If, he would have cut Thanos in half.
Yeah.
So his crux was emotions. White Vision doesn't have those. And he's still a very active player in the game. Like, I feel like a lot of people forget about him because he was just like this random, brought in. We thought he was going to be Ultron, which would have been so interesting now that we saw What If.
I know. But I also understand now why they didn't do it because of What If.
Yeah. But, well, he didn't have the stone, though. So, but, he flies off and he flies off. He's gone. So he's still, around. He's still a possible contender. He's all the memories of Vision. So he does fit in with the idea that he knows he fought with the Avengers. He would know Sam. He would know a couple of them that he, directly was meeting. So I don't necessarily go against him being a contender. He's the lowest on my list for a reason, because he's kind of that out there pick. But I'm not against it. There's also been rumors of seeing him have a possible cameo in MOM. Oh,
I wouldn't be surprised. I think wherever Wanda goes, Vision goes. So for her to be in a movie without any reference to him, especially after what happened in WandaVision, I think is very unlikely.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to bet money he's in that movie, at the very least a few minutes.
Yeah.
I think that's a very safe bet. To your point, I mean, about him being a leader, I don't know. I think it would be hard for example, a Bucky to get behind a droid. Bucky's all about, for example, people. He is big on just trusting people. Yeah, but
he's also part cyborg.
Yes. But I think he would struggle with following he's not a cyborg. I don't even know what you would consider Vision at this point, because it's very confusing, but I would say it would be hard for the other Avengers to follow that. Someone of Vision's makeup? I don't even know how you say that. Yes,
but also they had no problem before.
But he wasn't a leader.
But they allowed him to lead before. He was, prior to feeling any emotions, Vision himself held Mew Mew. They put it this way. This is my thoughts. He's worthy of the hammer. Bruce and Tony created him. He's literally their child. He has the makeup of someone who is quite literally, almost half of the Avengers put into one.
Yeah.
Of the original 6. So...
I mean, yeah, but to your point about the emotions, I think it's hard to save people when you don't feel empathy for them. So, and I think that's something that Tony kind of struggled with because he...
Well, I was going to say there's a connection with Tony with that, too.
Yeah, so, I mean, he would need to develop emotions or develop
He's a
empathy.
robot. It's not like you can't, like, upload something.
I don't know how any of that works, but yeah, I mean, so that one, I don't know that I can get behind. To your point, I think it's possible, but I agree it's definitely the least likely. I don't know if there's anybody else for
He's,
me.
like, on my least likely of, like, along with Wanda, because while I would love to see her and her power makes her someone who shouldn't be not a leader, like, it's like when you have, like, the sluggers on a baseball team, like, most of the time those guys end up being, like, captains because they're putting the numbers up there, that, like, and that's who she is. But she's, to me, what Strange is to you. I need to see MOM to be able to make that decision on her and whether or not she would want to. I wouldn't be against seeing her step up because I do think that she needs a stable environment and being able to lead people, I think would help her move past what she's been through. I think she needs that push into something that she's not familiar with, and that's being the front person and having people look up to her. And I think that's something she has not had. She's always just been in the background being hurt, essentially.
Or been public enemy number 1.
Well, exactly. And I think that would be a big thing for her to... Because the Accords essentially came out because of her.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So I think it could be really interesting to see her step up and be the leader that people know she could be. But I also... Depending on how MOM goes, I mean, we've been looking to see if House of M comes in, and that would be a complete down tear of her character and essentially combustion. So that version of Wanda would definitely not be able to lead. If she comes out as a good person and the good guy of MOM, I wouldn't be necessarily against maybe seeing her become a leader of the Avengers.
I struggle with it. I just think she's so damaged.
I think if she didn't toe the line with Westview, yes.
Yeah. Oh,
you know?
Yeah. I think
but that's
if you're
another
just dealing
thing
with your grief personally, but I really struggle with them. The idea of them making someone leader of the Avengers that put an entire town under painful mind control. That's not a good look, especially, the Avengers did bring Thanos back, but before that, they were having some major PR issues.
Yeah.
Because of her, to then make her leader and essentially give her a promotion after she had put a town under mind control sends the wrong message if you're the Avengers.
Oh yeah, well that's what I mean. She definitely, because she toes the line a lot, she's kind of that, like, she's that real big bench player. Like, you really don't want to play her if you don't have to in my picks.
She's the ace in the hole, really.
Yeah, but she's that possibility that if I really needed a player, I'll put her in. And that's kind of where I'm at with her. Where, like, she has the possibility, but she toes that line a little too much. So it's like anyone who's, like, a really good player. Sorry, I don't know why I'm making so many. I guess, like, it's a good connection. But, like, even like a football player, you can be a great football player. But
if you have off-the-field issues, you're not going to be a team leader.
Or even if you're out there, like, slugging people and putting them in their injury carts and getting carted off the field, like, they're not going to want you out there, and you're probably just going to get fined, and no one's going to like you, because it's like, dude, you're literally, like, demolishing players out there.
Yeah.
So, she's like, she's below White Vision because she's volatile in a different way, and because of her emotions, she's problematic in that way. I love her, though, so
Here's someone I just thought of that could be interesting, although I know we've pegged her for another franchise.
Can you say Yelena?
Yep.
I've been thinking of her all day.
I mean, just thinking about Yelena all day, every day.
Because I always think about Yelena.
Her hair. I just think about her hair. I'm like, I want someone to do my hair.
Well, I've been like, every time I look at you in the corner of my eye, I see my pops, and I see my Black Widow pop, so it indirectly, of course, reminds me then of Yelena, because I haven't gotten her pop yet, but I was thinking about it. And yes, if she doesn't stay a part of the Dark Avengers and or Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
If she isn't, because, and I think this was actually mentioned in the Hawkeye series finale blog post when I was discussing some of the possibilities of their future. after what just happened, I can't guarantee she'd go back to Valentina.
Yeah.
So one of my two biggest things for her was either she was going back to Valentina or she was going back to freeing the widows, which there's no guarantee she finished because she was literally in the middle of it when she got blipped or snapped.
Yeah.
So, and then it didn't seem like long after getting blipped that she ended up with Valentina, because that woman, that other widow that she came back into the house with, was literally talking about using their skills to
make money, essentially. Yeah.
Which is what she's doing with Valentina. She's hired out.
If she wanted to go the other direction and follow in her sister's footsteps, she now has contact with Clint, and Clint has all of the contacts necessary.
Yeah, and I don't personally see... I mean, like, I'm here for her to be a Dark Avenger and or a Thunderbolt because it would make sense, but because she also has the same past as her sister, it makes just as much sense to bring her in as the widow of the Avengers.
Yeah.
But, to a point you kind of brought up earlier, we're going more cosmic and spacey, and, I mean, granted, we have Sam, who's not even a super soldier, being Captain America, so there's that, and he's such a large contender.
And Scott Lang, who technically is still an Avenger.
Yeah. I just don't see him leading. I'm
just saying, if you're looking at on the bench, you do have a lot of cosmic players. You obviously have Carol. You have
especially in our leaderboards that we were just mentioning. Yeah. Like most of them are people who can handle themselves.
Cosmic, yeah. But not to say that the roster in total is not going to have some people who are a little more grounded. I mean, you could potentially have Yelena. You have, to your point, Sam, Bucky. Yeah. Yes, he's a super soldier, but he's not cosmic. He doesn't have magic. No. You have Scott Lang and Hope Van Dyne. They're both very on the ground. You have, Peter's not really an Avenger anymore. He kind of...
No one knows who they're just like, Spider-Man was here.
Yeah. Is there anyone else? I'm trying to think.
I'm not.
I mean, even She-Hulk, she could hold her own, but, not so cosmic. Moon Knight is cosmic. Ms. Marvel is cosmic.
But
you still have Nick Fury, Maria Hill on the board. They're not cosmic.
That's why, for me, though, my thing is, with the next group of Avengers, we don't know if there's going to be 6 again. We don't know if there's going to be 10 again. 4. We don't know what we're going to get, number-wise. And
or if we're ever going to get an official roster again.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of feel like they wouldn't fully move away from that. I feel like that could get messy if they did.
I am inclined to agree with you. I just think...
Just because that's too many storylines, and when you're not starting to put people together, you're getting dangerous. Especially with, it helped to have the first 6, the OG 6. And then when you moved into Age of Ultron, they recruit.
Yeah.
Then when you move into Civil War even, you see more people technically being recruited, like Rhodey and Black Panther are being brought in.
Scott.
See, exactly. Scott. Even Bucky technically is Sam officially, they're all being brought in. And you just see them kind of slowly picking up people, which helps make Infinity War and Endgame make so much more sense.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And I just think if you don't start with some sort of an official group, and you build on them like you did with the first phase, you're gonna get messy. Because I loved Phase 4 so far. Everything that came out in 2021, amazing, but very little connected.
Correct.
And so for me, and that's fine because it's the beginning, we're starting over, but I just think when you have so many stories you're telling, to not be bringing people in, and this is kind of even down to how do you have 4 heroes who live in New York City and none of them even realize it?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. It's the same idea. You can't be having all of this stuff happening and no one's noticing it outside. It's starting to get to a point where, it's noticeable.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Before it was okay, we only had the OG 6, so... And then they were picking up people that they were noticing, Wanda and Pietro, until Pietro, didn't make it past the first movie, but...
He tried.
But, they were, as they saw more people who were like them, picking them up.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but now it's there's so many out there, for them to not connect them feels weird.
I agree. I just like playing devil's advocate on that one, because I feel like they've done the whole official roster, official Avengers thing before. I want them to keep doing that, because to your point, it helps me organize myself and my, interpretation of it, but... And I guess it's always possible that they choose not to.
And my only other argument then against Yelena, which hurts, because I don't like arguing against her, but I don't think we're going to see the same type of boots on the ground idea at all. Because if you really think about it, who of the original 6 was really space ready? None of them. Tony just managed. Like, you know what I mean?
And then he had panic attacks afterwards.
Yeah, like, and then he went up later on, but, like, also still managed. Like, so none of them were Ross. Like, Thor's the only one who had the ability to go up into space fully. Like, yeah, they may do an Endgame, but, like, that was the first, 10 minutes, and they were, like, off with their head with Thanos, and then right back to Earth. Like, it wasn't, they were not going to be fighting on planets. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't necessarily see it being a boots-on-the-ground team anymore. I see it being people like Captain Marvel, Shang-Chi, who I believe definitely has the ability with those rings.
Those rings are not from this planet, so...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Doctor Strange, who has already proven himself up in space. And, like, I see it being all these people who have the ability to be on the ground and up in space. So I don't see it being Yelena. I don't see them doing another Widow in that sense.
That's fair. Yeah. I was just thinking about players who kind of mirror the past.
Yeah.
Who are on the board. Which is fair.
Yeah. She's definitely the next phase of Black Widow, but not necessarily for our Avengers.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That is fair. Are there any other thoughts you wanted to put out there? Because I'm fresh out of ideas because I have honestly no clue. I mean, we have not even had really more than a whisper of an actual Avengers team, and...
But we've been getting a lot of rumors coming out from Avengers 5.
Yeah.
Like even the Russos possibly being signed on for it.
Although I hear that they're very reluctant after what happened with Scarlet and the lawsuit.
Yeah.
So that's concerning because I know people feel the way they feel about Endgame, and that's kind of polarizing.
It's their only mess up.
I do like Endgame. It hurts me on a lot of levels, but I do like it. I think they more than some of... Let me rephrase that. I think the Russo brothers understand the MCU and they understand team-up movies better than anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, I trust the Russo brothers because they did The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And they did Civil War. But because The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is essentially, like, my gut. Like, it lives...
They did The Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
Not The Falcon... Oh my gosh. The Winter Soldier. Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
I was like, I don't think they did the TV shows.
I love Bucky, but they need to give him the White Wolf before I drive myself up a wall with it. No, sorry. The Winter Soldier as in the movie, like Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and Civil War. So they did a majority of Cap's trilogy, which is arguably the best trilogy, because... The Thor only won on his third one, and Tony lost it on his second, too, so...
To be fair to poor Thor, he had 3 different directors for 3 different movies, so that's really hard to create a cohesive unit. I think Thor's is actually the most important trilogy in the entire Infinity Saga, in terms of just, like, if Loki hadn't been lied to his whole life, none of this would have happened.
That's fair. It's all really Loki's fault, if you boil it down.
I just, I had this thought, and I think I said it to you the other day. Loki woke up the day of Thor's coronation and said, I'm gonna start some mischief, and 10 years later, he was being choked out by a giant purple raisin.
Yeah, like, it was 100%, like, down to the core... Loki's fault.
Yes. I mean, the whole Infinity Saga is because Loki decided to, like, screw with his brother on his coronation day.
And it's even funnier because he's the main villain in the first Avengers, so it just makes it funnier because you're just like, wow, this really all came down from you. But the whole point of all of that was to say, of course, that the possibility of the Russos coming in, I would like it.
Me too.
Because they obviously did Infinity War, loved Infinity War. Don't know how you shoot that and Endgame at the same time and you end up with Endgame. And I don't know how you shoot most of Captain America's trilogy and end up with that it's fine.
I think there's a lot of footage that you would have liked on the editing room floor.
Yeah.
And I think they shot many different versions of this movie.
Yes.
And the version that it ended up being, you personally don't agree with.
Well, I know I've said to Taylor quite a few times, every deleted scene I've heard and or seen pictures of was better than what ended up in the movie. And I don't remember most of them at this point, but it was after it came out, and a lot of people, because I know Endgame's highly disputed. It's one of those movies. Like, it has the numbers it has because...
It's the sequel to Infinity War.
Well, and it's the biggest film. But, like, as an actual movie, and I've seen a lot of people who are even like, after watching it a second or third time, this kind of sucks. Like, there's plot holes, like, it's a mess, like, it doesn't actually make sense.
The beginning portion is very long.
Yeah.
I remember even, like, thinking that. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I don't need, like, I obviously know the world was affected by the fact that half the population went away.
Stop.
I didn't need an hour of you explaining this to me.
Well, and so when I was hearing about deleted scenes, I was like, all of these sound better than what they put in. So, like, it, to me, worries me about the Russos a little, even if they did come on, because I'm a little worried on them starting a new Avengers with where they left the old one.
I'm going to counterpoint. I think they heard the criticism, and I think they will do better.
That's fair. That's fair. Because I definitely think that for what it was supposed to be, and, like, the next Avengers is going to be huge.
It's going to be massive.
Because you're starting over.
Yeah.
But this is how you know you're getting a distinctive team. They already said there's going to be an Avengers 5.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, it's going to be big. Prior to Endgame, would have said put my life... Hold on. Prior to Endgame, would have put my life in the Russos' hands, but then Endgame happened, and it being the biggest film that it was supposed to be, and getting what we got, worries me about them trying to introduce a new team.
Okay, here's my counterpoint to your saying that there will be a distinctive team because they've announced Avengers 5. Infinity War and Endgame didn't really have an official roster. Like,
well, I also didn't know that was being considered Avengers 3 and 4 until, like, kind of recently when they were like, Avengers 5, and I was like, how do we make it to 5?
Well, I mean, it's called Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame.
I didn't really think about it that way.
Okay, well, that's on you. I think it's pretty explicit.
Okay. Well, I wasn't thinking of it that way because I just didn't really put it that, like, because I also don't say Avengers 1 and 2. Like, I don't really think of Ultron. I wasn't really counting them, so when they're just like Avengers 5, I was like, where did we get 5?
Well, it's only called 5 because it's, like, named.
No, I know. I just, like, I don't put numbers to them usually, so that's why I was like, where is this coming from? But, yeah. And I mean, I guess that's fair, but if you want to say it's Avengers 3 and 4, which it is, it started from Avengers 1 and 2, which has a distinctive team, you know? So, yeah. I
guess I'm just wondering if they're moving away from... As the evolution goes, they're moving away from having an official roster, and it's just like, all hands on deck when needed. Like, you're going to be tapped to come when you're tapped to come.
But they're going to have to figure out bringing these people together, and I don't... Because, like, Avengers, because everyone was so boots on the ground, it felt easier to bring them together. Right. But now these guys are going to be harder, because you've got people all over the place.
Where do the Eternals fit in?
Well, I don't want to talk about it. I've been purposely avoiding it since I talked about it earlier with Icarus, because I don't want to even talk about it. I don't want to bring it up.
They're clearly super aware of the Avengers.
Yeah, well, because they've been living on Earth for the past, like, since it began, but I don't even know. So anyway.
Okay, so we're just completely ignoring that franchise because it hurts my brain.
And because they've already confirmed Eternals 2, I know I'm getting enough that might set up. I mean, we already have a new Eternal being added to the list. We've got Eternals captured. Like, I just don't want to worry about it. So, we're not going to.
Okay.
But I see a whole, like, a full roster coming because they need to. I just don't think they're going to be able to just tap people in and out. I think it's going to be so awkward if they do. Because, some of the Avengers knew each other prior to the Avengers. Like, Hawkeye and Nat. You know, or they knew of each other. So it's like Tony was given all the information on all of them.
Well, and not to mention Steve knew Tony's dad.
Yeah, exactly.
So they have that.
There's been a history, and there's really not a history with most of these guys that we've named to be possible leaders. Maybe they fought together, but have they actually interacted? Then you have to assume they don't know each other.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, I'm sure the army doesn't know every single person in it. Like, yeah, so I don't know. For me, I think they need to establish a roster now more than they needed to in 2012, 2010.
I mean, I agree with you. I just, devil's advocate, and I also, I personally am a person who needs structure.
Oh, I do too. So them not doing that, I think, would stress me out.
I would be very anxious the whole time. Yeah.
But those are my picks.
Yeah, I have nothing left because this is a blank slate. More so than I think we've said this many times, but we were not super MCU fans when things were really getting started in phases 1 and 2. We kind of came in later.
Well, you came in much later than I did. I was Age of Ultron.
Which was 2015. I came in 2016. So
yeah, but like, that was a different establishment. You came in for Civil War, man.
Whatever. Anyway. Either way, you know, there were some things established when we kind of came in to our fandom, really. So this is our first foray into what the heck is happening. and there's no connective tissue that I can see. There's
very little.
Yeah.
There is some there, but it's
in
very
comparison
little.
to when we were seeing stones pop up in every movie, there's like basically
Well, yeah, because the stones were, even when you didn't, the people were not necessarily connected, the stones were.
Yeah.
And you were like, oh, Tesseract again, oh, Tesseract for a fourth time.
Oh my God,
like,
don't even.
The Tesseract carried, like.
It did. But it was the real star of Phases 1 through 3.
Yeah, but because of that, you at least saw a line drawn between some of them, and especially with the shows right now, it's been hard to draw lines.
And now that, I mean, the shows in 21 were all for established characters.
Yeah, and now we're getting new
And now every single show this year, I mean, they've confirmed 3. I personally believe there's a 4th one they haven't confirmed yet for this year. I think we're either going to get a Secret Invasion or something else in 22.
I thought that was confirmed for 2023, though.
I'm unsure. So let me go back a step and say, I don't know what the show is, but I have a feeling there's a 4th one coming at the end of the year that we should expect. So
I'm gonna just say I'm not sure about that because of the current spikes in where we are with the pandemic and the move of Morbius. If that's been because of the pandemic and we already moved stuff back in the MCU, I'm not sure we're gonna see a show, especially since it's January 9th, roughly. I don't know the date. It's early. It's a third of the way through January, roughly. We haven't gotten an announcement for a show yet. We haven't gotten a further trailer for any of the shows yet, and we've been told Ms. Marvel's getting really solid reshoots. So
Fair.
I'm not sure about that.
I would like to think there's a 4th show, but ignoring all of that little back and forth, I say all this to say all 3 shows that have been confirmed for 22 are introductory shows, not continuing prior characters. We're meeting Moon Knight, we're meeting She-Hulk, and we're meeting Ms. Marvel. We've never seen them before.
Right.
So really, we're getting a lot of new characters this year, so it'll be interesting to see if there's any more connective tissue within the movies, because we are just continuing to expand with really no anchors in sight.
I agree. So I think that's the best we can do about who might lead the Avengers. Ask us in a year.
Yeah, we might have a better idea.
Maybe we'll have who's going to lead the Avengers Part 2 in a year, because I don't think we're going to have a definitive answer by the end of this year. I don't think we might not even have Avengers 5 given any date fully yet either. So, and I definitely thought Peter was going to be in Avengers 5, but now I don't know. So, yeah, ask us in a year.
That's the best we've got for you.
I agree. Yep.
All right, guys, so those are our best guesses for who might be leading the Avengers moving forward based on where we are right now in Phase 4. But of course, if you have any thoughts about who you think might be the best leader or who you think might be the leader moving forward, feel free to tweet us. We will give you the handle in just a minute. Or you can comment on the corresponding blog post and we will see that and respond to you. As always, if you are a fan of the show but you haven't subscribed yet, please do so on your podcast platform of choice. You can also feel free to give us a rating or a review if you feel so inclined. You can follow our blog, and we will have that linked in the show notes for you for easy access. And last but not least, you can follow our playlist profile on Spotify, which is Let's Talk MFT, which is also linked in the show notes.
And then our Twitter is also Let's Talk MFT, so go follow that. That is really your landing place for everything. We will be tweeting when the podcast comes out, when the blog comes out, any of our theories, retweeting news. So pretty much everything you need is in one spot, so definitely go follow that. And if you ever want to get a hold of us, it's probably the most direct way. Just tweet us and we will see it. And as we move into 2022, get ready because Marvel just blew your mind, so let's talk about it.